Welcome to this explainer from Equindio TV. I'm Equindio, and today we're doing something a little different. I am opening up my own personal playbook to show you the absolute most dangerous Chatgpt prompts I have ever used in my career. Look, we are moving way beyond basic copywriting here. You already know the basics. Today, we're looking at the exact under-the-radar frameworks that turn standard AI outputs into absolute masterclasses in human psychology. If you want to completely transform the way you communicate value, well, you are exactly in the right place. Let's get into it. Because the entire philosophy of this playbook really boils down to this one quote. They don't sell, they make people want to buy. Think about that for a second. It's all about shifting your messaging from that loud, try-hard selling to high-status, silent persuasion. You know, amateurs sell, right? They push, they prod, they rely on all caps and a dozen exclamation marks. But masters of persuasion, they don't actually sell at all. They just construct an environment where the prospect naturally decides on their own that they absolutely must buy. So let's dive right into Section 1, the silent persuasion shifts, and moving away from all that hype. We've essentially been conditioned to believe that whoever shouts the loudest wins. But, in an era of infinite noise, the highest status move you can possibly make is to actually lower your volume. On one side, you've got this loud direct selling and pressure. On the other side, quiet emotional payoff and status. Think about the leaders you respect the most. Do they scream for your attention? No way. They operate with this quiet certainty that just naturally draws you in. And honestly, that is exactly how I want our AI to sound. Okay, moving right along to Section 2, sparking urgency and ownership, or making it their idea. To build that urgency without sounding desperate, I use this first prompt. You can literally take this and plug it into ChatGPT with your current offer right now. By instructing the AI to use status and FOMO, that fear of missing out, we create this quiet, yet totally unstoppable urgency. It literally makes the reader feel like waiting is going to genuinely cost them something they truly value. There's zero hype here. It's just a quiet, intense realization that they need to move fast. Now, my second prompt takes this even further. It plants the seed so perfectly that the reader feels like the purchase was 100% their own idea. In my experience, this is persuasion at its absolute most elegant. We're telling the AI to mirror their thoughts and anticipate their objections before they even have a chance to verbalize them. When someone reads copy generated by this prompt, they don't feel like they're being pitched to. They feel like they're reading a page torn right out of their very own diary. Which brings us to a concept I like to call being ego-safe. Ego-safe basically means anticipating their objections so smoothly, so seamlessly, that they don't even realize they're being guided. Look, when people feel like their identity or their intelligence is being threatened by some aggressive salesperson, they just reject the message entirely. Ego-safe messaging ensures they maintain complete control. They feel like they are in the driver's seat the entire time. Right, so we've built the urgency and we've protected their ego. They firmly believe it's their idea. But how do we take this and elevate the messaging from just being clever to being truly elite? I want you to think about how we can signal undeniable high status in every single word we put on that page. And that brings us to Section 3, signaling status through story, or what I call the quiet luxury approach. The real magic to this third prompt is the specific command for quiet luxury. I always instruct the AI to whisper exclusivity and, crucially, to remove anything try-hard. We are actively stripping away anything that even remotely sounds like bragging. Because let's face it, bragging is low status. True power and intelligence, they don't need to shout to be recognized. They are naturally elite. Throwing this prompt into the mix completely changes the entire posture of your copy. And then my fourth prompt builds on this elite tone by selling strictly through a transformational story. You've heard the old saying, right? Facts tell and stories sell. Well, this prompt specifies exactly how that story should function. It mandates the use of pacing, metaphor, and emotional payoff instead of just direct selling. By commanding the AI to mirror the customer's journey from doubt to realization, we're taking a highly cinematic approach to persuasion. It's incredibly powerful. But, even with the most elite tone and the absolute best story, human nature dictates that objections are always going to remain, which perfectly sets up our next crucial tactic. How do we take those lingering fears and completely destroy them? Not with some massive, clunky paragraph, but in a single sentence. Let's get into Section 4, personalize and destroy doubt, focusing on the undeniable flip. Prompt 5 is where I trigger that powerful, oh wow, this is for me reaction. By instructing the AI to use identity hooks and niche cues, we are speaking directly to their highly specific pain points. But the secret sauce here? Keeping it subtle enough to avoid sounding salesy. When a prospect feels deeply, genuinely understood on a personal level, their doubt just naturally starts to evaporate. Then we hit him with prompt 6. This is a surgical strike for pure efficiency. Instead of arguing with the customer, which we never want to do, we ask the AI to generate one effortless line that flips their biggest objection into the exact reason they must act right now. It takes their greatest point of friction and literally turns it into their strongest point of leverage. It is a complete, psychological, and undeniable flip. So you've built status, you've removed the doubt, and you've made it deeply personal. But what is the final psychological trigger to make them not just accept your offer, but actively crave it? What actually happens when you deliberately leave them wanting more? That leads us to our final part, section 5, from curiosity to craving, and the lingering effect. This 7th prompt? It is my absolute favorite piece of the entire playbook. It's the masterstroke of silent persuasion. You tell the AI to restructure the offer using open loops, contrast, and intrigue. See, the goal isn't to give them all the information perfectly tied up with a little bow. No, the goal is to ensure your offer lingers in their mind. You want to reveal just enough to make them desperately need the rest of the puzzle. Because this final prompt relies entirely on these 3 mechanics. Open loops create a psychological itch that your customer just feels absolutely compelled to scratch. Contrast highlights the massive gap between where they are right now and where they could be. And intrigue, that provides the mysterious bridge between the two. Working together, they keep your audience completely hooked and fully invested in taking that next step. So, as I close up my playbook for today, I'm going to leave you with this dangerous question to apply to your own messaging. Remember, these aren't just prompts. They are an entirely new way of operating that takes you out of the desperate crowd and places you in a category of quiet, high-status authority. So, looking back over these 7 strategies, which prompt will you implement right now to stop selling and start making people want to buy?